I am a little bit late to this one, but my younger siblings, mother, and then stepfather were on a program in the UK called Mums on Strike in the mid-2000s. The premise was that the mother would be sick of doing everything around the house, and would be whisked away to a luxury spa for a weekend, leaving the clueless father in charge of trying to take care of the household duties. A lot of the conversations and scenarios were faked. I supposedly visited them for the weekend, but I did multiple different shoots across a few hours on the last day of filming, then went back home. They'd cause fights between the siblings by purposely creating situations where one was favored over the other, so the others would throw a tantrum. There was a shoot on location in our local town centre, and they encouraged my little brother to run off into all sorts of different shops, causing hilarity as my stepfather tried chasing after him with 2 other children in tow. Mealtimes were a bit of a farce as well, as it was a weekend. My stepfather had to cook a traditional roast dinner. The production company intentionally supplied incorrect ingredients to make sure my stepfather looked like an idiot. They filmed my reaction to him trying to add beans to the roast a few different times, so they could pick the best one. In the end, after they'd got all the footage they wanted, they sent one of the production team out to the chippy to get us some actual edible food. TLDR, contrived, exaggerated, sometimes faked, full of drama. I was on Scared Straight and my episode never even aired because they only select a very small amount of footage to make it look a lot worse than it actually is. Most prisoners were pretty nice. I don't know if this counts, but I was on an episode of Made on MTV, if anyone remembers that show. It was my senior year of high school, so about 7 years ago. People gave me crap about it forever and still do. I was made into a screamo singer. The experience is interesting to say the least. The money and flight trip to NYC at 17 years old made the whole embarrassment worth it. Plus I work in the broadcast business now, so it really opened up a lot of doors and showed me a career I love. Seeing kids now that were in my shoes, so fascinated by entertainment media, makes me so genuinely happy. If anyone is interested, I'll tell more or answer questions. Not sure if that's the kind of show you're looking for. Friend of mine worked on Nanny 911 in NYC. Nothing on that show happened unless the producers okayed it. They would come up with scenarios and plot points to film. You don't just shoot TV shows like that and hope that something magical happens. They created every issue. Reality TV is not real. Edit. The camera crew who worked on Nanny 911 also worked on other shows like Real Housewives of New York, Kitchen Nightmares, and Hell's Kitchen. Film business is a very small world. My friend was on Super Nanny. They don't actually do anything, it's just acting. He and his brother are still exactly the same as they were before. One of my friends in grade school was on Nanny 911 as a kid, maybe around 5 years old. There were a lot of kids in her family, and one of the biggest problems the nanny had with their household was safety. She baby-proofed the entire house and lectured them on safety precautions they have to take in their lives to ensure that the children wouldn't get hurt. She even gave them all helmets to wear whenever they rode bikes or four-wheelers. After she left, a lot of the safety precautions went out of the window, and later my friend told me that they still had the helmets, but they were all sitting in a dusty corner. Like 3 years ago, I lived in a big 5-bedroom house with 4 other friends in college. The house was in an episode of Super Nanny. We found out because our nice neighbor literally gave us a signed headshot from Joe Frost as a gift out of the blue. He literally told us, "I think you would like this more than me," and get a kick out of it. It made our week, and we found the episode online and watched it. I asked about the family to the neighbor, as our house was rented out and owned by a property company. He told me after the show the parents fought all the time, lost all of their money due to 2008 crisis, and lost the house to foreclosure. The picture stayed on our mantle for 3 years, and I thought about that family every time. I went to an all-boys correctional school 40 miles into the high desert in Washington state. A couple other guys there went on shows like this and they never worked, hence being at the correctional school. The school did pretty good straightening most of us out, however unfortunately there's always a couple guys who just won't follow rules. If our school couldn't help you, you would be sent to the other place, which was basically a terrible juvenile prison in Mexico that was run by us marshals. One day one of these marshals came to give a talk. He spoke about the other place and basically scared the shit out of us. At the end of his speech he said, "And unfortunately one of you is coming with us today," and we all simultaneously shit our pants. He says the name of the kid he was taking. We'll call him Colin. He then tells Colin to empty his pockets, take off his shoes and belt, and places him in handcuffs. The director of the school said some encouraging words to him and asked if any of the students wanted to say bye or wish him well. Dead silence. Then his roommate stands up and says, "I packed your stuff. You had no bag, so I put all your shit in some trash bags. Owned up, I'll miss you, I guess." A piece of Colin died that day. I never heard from him or about him after that day. Based off the rumors about that place in Mexico, it's possible he could still be there, and it's been 7 years since that day. I'd like to contribute. Hopefully someone sees this. My brother was on a show called Violent Children, Desperate Parents, and honestly they were brilliant. I wasn't part of this whole experience because I was in university at the time, but my father and my brother both were in this show, and the show staff were honestly brilliant. Here in the UK, especially Wales where my family lives, mental health is not really a thing the poor have access to, and my family are definitely working class. This show gave my brother and my father access to mental health care they would have never have been able to access themselves, and made quite a large difference in both their lives. They continued to support my family for almost a year after filming with offers of more mental health help, and both my father and my brother are happier people today because of this. One thing I will say is the only reason we were featured on this show was out of pure desperation. There was basically no other way that my father could imagine getting help, given he'd spent almost 8 years fighting with the NHS to get my brother psychological help, all to basically no avail. My family were made into entertainment for the masses so that we could access something fairly basic. Something about the whole experience doesn't sit right with me at all. Happy to answer any further questions. Didn't end up on it, but my family was approached to take part in a German version of the reality show The World's Strictest Parents, Die Strengsten Eltern der Welt. The reason being my father is somewhat well known in my country for being a bit of a wild man, looks like a Viking, very into the outdoors, fishing, hunting, etc. They'd found a special of him on 60 Minutes and a few clips of him adventuring online, and thought that Germans would enjoy watching bad kids being set straight by the bear man. Anyway, the interaction was done through a middleman, so to speak, who outlined what would be required of us, and what small compensation we would receive for going along with it. At the outset it seemed fine, even a little exciting. We had close ties with a lot of exchange students in the past. We lived in a very small community in the mountains, and we all loved traveling, and my father didn't seem to mind the sound of helping out some struggling kids and possibly showing them a different side of life. Not necessarily that hunting and the outdoors are the only way to go, but more open their minds a little and take them out of their comfort zone, etc. We watched a few clips of the show online and decided that we were laid back enough as a family that the drama wouldn't really wind us up or anything. Well, alarm bells started ringing after a bit more correspondence with the middleman. He started insinuating that there would be times where the kids would be told to play up situations, and that we would have to either roll along with the staged drama, or actively join in and amp it up for the cameras. My dad laid it out pretty straight, saying he'd be happy to take these kids under his wing and show them some pretty cool adventures. He had glacier crossing, hiking through rainforests, caving, whitewater kayaking, hunting, or at least watching him hunt, and tons of other activities across our country all planned out. I'd just become a scuba instructor and even offered to take them out diving on geothermal vents. But they really stressed the whole people watch this show to see bad kids act batshit crazy, so that's what you're expected to encourage vibe. We politely turned them down at this stage. A few months later the middleman actually emailed us and told us it was probably a good idea that we hadn't gone along with it. Apparently they never paid him for any of his work organizing host families or setting up scenarios. Ah well, dodged a bullet there I guess. All my friends in Germany seem to think so. The German reality show wanted us to encourage struggling teens to throw temper tantrums and make my dad look like an angry bear man. Turned them down.